Welcome to Care America. I'm Star Parker. It's amazing to be here at the first, as they call themselves, the debate, the RNC debate. And it's with Fox News. And we've run into every Fox personality you can think of. So go to my Facebook so you can see all the pictures of me smiling with you name them, they're here. But we're here as well to bring you firsthand information about what is happening on the floor here at the debate, what some of the candidates are saying, what they're not saying. We want to know that too, so that you can make a selection. This is too important for you not to be engaged in this coming election 2024. So it begins now, right now, first.
Well, I like him a ton, as you might expect.
Yeah.
And I get the chance to see him in action every day. I respect his character, his integrity, and I love his optimism and his hope. And he's an aspirational candidate, which I think America is desperate for right now. We're going to find out how wide the lane is, but I think there's a big appetite among voters for somebody like him who has a personal story that maybe a lot of people in America can relate to. And the things that he's overcome in life, and just the way he talks about this country and what it means to him, and how he wants to make it better for people in the future.
You know, a lot of people think that nothing gets done in Washington, D.C., but yet you guys do work across the aisle even. Tim tried to get criminal justice reform done.
He did.
He worked on police reform. He worked on getting that Opportunity Zone initiative into the tax bill. Speak to what does get done in the Senate.
Well, I think that, you know, he did. He tried really hard and had a terrific bill, both on policing and on, as you said, on some of the criminal justice issues, and had worked, you know, really hard to get input from stakeholders and people who are affected by a lot of these decisions, and came up with a great bill that ultimately the Democrats weren't willing to take up, which is unfortunate. But I worked with him on tax reform, and he did the Opportunity Zone piece of it, and I worked closely with him on that.
And it's still working.
Saw him, and he's still working. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Let me ask you one final question, because I know they want to get you in here. What are you hoping to hear from him this evening that convince the American people that he can then work across the aisle to bring us together? Or do you think that we still are at a point that we're not so divided that we can actually work together to build a great country?
Maybe I'm naive, but I still hope that's true. And that's right, yeah. But I think Tim has the qualities, character qualities to do that. I mean, if there's anybody, you know, when he talks about being a victor, not a victim, and he talks about greatness, not grievance, I think people are hungry for that, and I think he's the kind of leader that can pull people together. I really believe that, and if I didn't, I wouldn't be here.
Well, I'm going to try to catch you in the spin room and see what you think after the debate.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Well, we shall see. I'm going to hope to catch up with a few others that are supporting other candidates. You heard from Byron Donalds. He's already in the camp for Trump. You just heard from Senator Thune from the great state of South Dakota. He's in with Tim Scott. He's been working with him since he went to the Senate, and a lot does get done. I think one of the reasons that I'm so intrigued by Senator Scott's campaign is that we do have a positive side. There is a morning in America. Come on, Reagan told us that. And everything down, doom, gloom, and bad, it's not true. We're resilient people. We are exciting people. And I'm gonna be a little interested in how it goes over on the debate stage this night. So I will get back with Senator Thune and see what he thinks after Tim Scott's presentation on the debate stage tonight. Well, the doors are closing. I'm going back into the spin room because it is hot out here, like 97 degrees, little breeze, but not much. Caught some great people, but I am wondering about the Trump supporters. There are a whole lot of them out here, as you saw, but yet he didn't think it was important. So why are they here? If it's not important, then I don't understand why his surrogates are here, even though they're not going to be able to get in the spin room for me to ask them because he turned down the debate. Oh well, we'll hear enough about him tomorrow when he's arrested in Atlanta. Yeah, very few people get here in the spin room, so we are honored. I mean, my goodness, for blackcommunitynews.com to be here in the spin room, for Cure America with Star Parker to be here in the spin room, for creators to be here in the spin room. We've been doing a whole lot in media over the last 20 years, and so now we are here in the spin room. So I'm waiting to hear when the candidates are going to be coming through. Most of it will be after this debate. Let's see what they do. Actually, I saw a friend right now. I'm going to see if I can get him on camera. Mark, can I get you on camera? Mark, please come to Star Parker. You know you're my friend.
I was waiting around just to say hi. I was waiting for you to finish so I could say hi.
Marc Shortt, some of you know with Mike Pence, and are you still doing Mike Pence?
I still work with the former vice president, yeah.
You know what I think is amazing? Everyone was talking about how, well, Trump is kind of stabilized and DeSantis isn't growing, and I'm telling them, it wasn't that Trump took away. It was that Mike got in. And it's amazing that he is number 3. Do you think that he has an actual chance to say, look, guys, see me anew?
You know what, Star? I think that really tonight is almost really the starting point. There's a lot that political, gurus cover before now. Most America isn't focused. You actually get into the debate stage. All that was preseason. Tonight's where it actually begins. And I think they'll be reminded that there's nobody else on that stage that has the same experience that he does and the same character that he does. And that'll come out in the answers he gives.
And for a long time, I mean, I think for him to reintroduce himself independent of the Trump administration is unique. For him to have shot to number 3, I think that people were just 2 weeks ago saying he's not even going to make the debate stage. What happened?
Well, I think, again, there was a lot of stories that because he got in late, there were questions if he'd get 40,000 donors in time. But he's got a lot of broad support there. He's already qualified for the second debate, Star. So
I know. That was why I've been telling you, I'm like, you guys, look, it wasn't Trump that we were after at that point. He took away from DeSantis. And I think that a lot of people have underestimated not just his congressional experience. They see the vice president, they knew the vice president, but his governorship. We're looking at current governors, and I'm not going to take away from DeSantis. I'm looking forward to hearing from all of them. But we get a second look at Mike. What are you hoping that he says tonight that will energize people to take a second look?
Well, I think that it's people just need to be reminded he's been a consistent conservative for many years. You know that. You've been in the same conservative movement that he's been in. But he was the one on the House floor championing, fighting against the first one to stand up against the Wall Street bailout. He was there fighting against No Child Left Behind. He was fighting against big government republicanism 20 years ago.
Right.
And he's the same person that's been there fighting for people's individual freedoms. And I think that'll come out tonight.
You think it's going to come out tonight? Oh, we're excited. I'm so excited to see him. I'm excited to see you here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Star. Good to see you. Thank you.
Oh my. Yeah, I was very surprised. Mike Pence has been a friend of mine for 25, maybe 30 years, oh my, from when he was in the Congress and even before that, and all through his governorship. And so I think that we are going to see a second look at Mike Pence tonight, because it was interesting how quickly he shot into that third place when he just got in a couple of weeks ago. And it's not that there hasn't been a whole lot of damage done against his personality and against his character by the Trump team, if you will, and the MAGAs. And I guess we call them trumpets now. I just don't know, because MAGAs are people that really want to make America great again. That's that 3/4 of the Republican voters that say we can take somebody new. So there's about 1/4 of people that are just only Trumpers, kind of like last time we had 1/4 of people that were never Trumpers. Now we have 1/4 that are only Trumpers. So the real key would be, can they get those votes from somewhere else if Trump is not going to be the candidate? But I think that the Mike Pence surge caught quite a few people by surprise, and caught me by surprise, but I'm kind of thankful for it. I like a lot of them up there. Some of my dear friends like Tim Scott, Nikki Haley. My goodness, I met DeSantis, but I don't know him as well as I know others. Chris Christie, he's another one we better watch. Keep your eye on Chris Christie, because it's not just the jabs. He actually had a B record as a governor, but we do have to consider it was a really blue state, and he didn't have Republicans to work with there. So I think that he might be one that will come out ahead a little bit tonight, too, to say maybe we should all take a second look. I think that's kind of like a girl looking for her husband. Yeah, she wants to get married, have children and grandchildren. So she can go out with the bad boy a lot, and he's dazzling and fun and throws out a whole lot of zingers, and he's a bad boy, and he goes after, the bullies. But she wants somebody that's going to be a good father for her children, and then a leader and an example for her grandchildren. So we'll see what happens tonight. The WHO will come out on top to say, let's take a second look. Let's look again as we then go to the next debate, which is in the great state of California, and then on we go then towards Iowa. We're excited to be here in the spin room. I just can't tell you how excited I am to be able to get in the spin room. I feel privileged. I feel honored. Here we are here live in the spin room at the Fox News debate, the first for the RNC. Everybody who's anyone is here. And in fact, 8 candidates will be on stage tonight to make their case for why they should be the next leader of the free world. All of us know that Biden's policies, Bidenomics is just not working. Biden may even be in jail by then. We don't know what's going to happen, but we do know what's going to happen tonight. We don't know what's going to happen in the future next year this time, but we do know what's going to happen tonight. 8 candidates are going to make their case for the American people to say which one of us has the power, the strength, the courage, the vision to lead America into its next phase. Oh, we had a wonderful ride for a little while under the leadership of Donald Trump, but a whole lot of things didn't get done. And next thing we know, he lost power. And boy, I tell you, the Biden administration and all these liberals have been doing a job on our country, a really bad job on our country. So now we have to have someone who has our international interest, who has our domestic interest, who has a heart for getting things done. You're going to hear from quite a few, and you're going to hear from me quite a bit through this next 3 hours, as we go into the Fox News democracy, it says, Republican debate. Milwaukee's exciting. It's been very, very hot here. It is a little bit of breeze, but it has been incredible. What an amazing city. In fact, I ran into their former governor, Scott Walker, earlier, who's now running YAF, and they're co-sponsoring this event. Very good friends, Young America Foundation. They're here, of course, and they're starting to party already before we all go inside and get locked down for 2 hours to listen to the debate. Ran into many, many others that are here right now. In fact, their current Senator, Ron Johnson, saw him earlier today, got a chance to chat with him just about us all being in his state, thanked him for us being in his state. But one of the things that we're hearing a lot of from different people out on the street is that Wisconsin is pretty purple. Wisconsin are kind of freedom lovers. In fact, one of our Uber drivers said, we're like a drunk state too. We drink a lot in this state. So I'm like, okay, so that's what purple people do, is just drink a lot, just say maybe it'll go away. I mean, they do have one Republican who I think is part of the Freedom Caucus. Well, he's in the Senate, but a part of that energy that came in to drain the swamp. But then their other senator from this great state is a Democrat. So it is a pretty purple, but the RNC is saying, but it's doable. The numbers have been close over the last few elections, and they want this state because the RNC wants freedom for Americans. The Republican Party has meaning, it has definition, and we're going to hear a lot about what that means tonight.
Governor Ron DeSantis.
Next, entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy.
Vice President Mike Pence.
Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley.
Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie.
South Carolina Senator Tim Scott.
Former Arkansas Governor Asha Hutchinson.
And North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum.
The 8 contenders are positioned by the order they sit in the polls, with the highest polling candidates in the middle standing center stage.
We cannot succeed as a country if you are working hard and you can't afford groceries, a car, or a new home, while Hunter Biden can make hundreds of thousands of dollars on lousy paintings. That is wrong.
I was the first person in this race to say that we've got to deal with the long-term national debt issues. You got people on this stage that won't even talk about issues like Social Security and Medicare. I mean, Vivek, you recently said a president can't do everything.
We cannot sit by any longer and allow the kind of spending that's going on in Washington, because every dollar they spend is a dollar that these people are not allowed to spend on their children and their grandchildren. It's robbing our country. Over the last several years, I've had an opportunity to vote against spending package after spending package after spending package. What we also need to understand is that Joe Biden's Bidenomics has led to the loss of $10,000 of spending power for the average family.
I'm an entrepreneur. My parents came to this country with no money 40 years ago. I have gone on to found multi-billion-dollar companies. I did it while marrying my wife, Apurva, raising our 2 sons, following our faith in God. That is the American dream.
They need to stop the spending. They need to stop the borrowing. They need to eliminate the earmarks that the Republicans brought back in. And they need to make sure they understand these are taxpayer dollars. It's not their dollars.
We can't just talk about the Biden economy, because the economy, energy, and national security are all tied together. Of course, we're paying too much for our energy in our state, in our country right now. But part of the reason why is because of the Biden policies on energy. We've got a plan right now, the $1.2 trillion of Green New Deal spending buried in the Inflation Creation Act.
I'm a pro-life governor from a conservative state that have a conservative record in which I lowered taxes in Arkansas as governor. I created a $2 billion surplus that I passed over to my successor, and I made sure that we shrunk the size of government.
God birthed in my heart years ago to do this work of CURE, the Center for Urban Renewal and Education.
We are incredibly privileged to have pastors from across the nation here for training and collaboration on solutions to help our communities.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for.
The Declaration meant what it said. All men are created equal.
We're to awaken, train, and mobilize the church as a whole, but the historically black church in particular, to end abortion in our communities.
Every church needs to do everything it can to help be an educational hub.
The crisis of the day is the sexual gone wrong, and it's going extraordinarily wrong. Us Christians are called to correct that by living the sexuality that God has given us.
It was the church who created the idea of educating every boy and girl. The idea of public health care, guess where that came from? The church. It was actually the church who was commissioned to do the work of charity. Guess who's actually robbed you of part of what it is that you're to do? It's government, and they failed miserably at it. They're not called to do it.
Government is not God.
Are we going to bow to government, or are we going to bow to God?
Kids need to see that confidence that we have about the truth. We're not in doubt about who we are.
I don't know, maybe I'll send Aaron Rodgers back. I don't know. I'm not really sure. You know, I think it's going to take, I think pain is a great awakener. And, you know, when we have 2/3, well, actually 61% of the American people now, that includes many people in Wisconsin that are living paycheck to paycheck. We can do so much better than that. You know, we have every American now on average owing $54,000 in debt. We are better than that. You know, we are better than allowing millions of illegal immigrants across our border. We don't even vet them. In the middle of a pandemic, we don't have a health check. And frankly, with $37 trillion in debt, people ought to be able to show that they're going to not be a burden on the American people financially. So all important issues, I think.
Thank you for your time.
Very nice to meet you. God bless you. Thank you.
What are you saying how candidates should dress, the division, foreign policy? We heard different opinions. About what? Ukraine-Russia war.
Look, I think Putin is evil, he's heartless, he's a murderer, he's a thug. You know, I have no doubt that he was probably responsible for that plane coming down earlier today. It seems to happen quite often to people that are close to him or around him. However, Europe has not done their fair share. This is their continent. They should have stepped up a lot more, rather than, you know, sending billions and billions of taxpayer dollars. How about we spend a lot of that money on the border? A number of those candidates tonight brought that up. So, you know, I think we have to reprioritize, you know, what is in our best interest. Getting this economy back on track, becoming energy independent again, not giving into climate alarmism, and having an agenda that first works for the American people. And when Joe Biden vetoed the Poland offer of MiGs and fighter jets to Ukraine, at that point it was clear he's not in this to win. And if you're going to fight a war, it's going to be long and protracted and drawn out. Don't expect the American people to fund it. But I got to roll. Hey guys. Hi, ma'am. His what? What do you think of his performance today? Thought he did great. I think the candidates really got their views out. I think in a very powerful way. I think Governor DeSantis had a great night. I think Ramaswamy had a great night. I would argue Nikki Haley was forceful, maybe said some things that maybe the Republican base might disagree with, but it was interesting. She was willing to say what she believes. I like that. I didn't hear what.
Based on the reaction,
yeah.
Are there any views that really crystallize for you in terms of where the Republican Party stands on the matter?
Yeah, I think the differences couldn't be any more clear. You know, borders, law and order, energy. You know, what is the role of government in our lives? Do we really want a new Green Deal that the same government that is bankrupting Social Security and Medicare, the same government that promised you keep your doctor plan and save money and didn't fulfill that promise? Why do people put their faith, hope, and trust in government when Medicare, Social Security are headed for insolvency, and none of those Obamacare promises were made?
What we saw was a real Nikki Haley. I mean, she was a strong leader on the stage tonight, and she gave her opinions, and it was great. I really think she won the debate hands down, and you'll see it as we move forward.
What does she have to take over a state like Wisconsin that has raised within large age fertility?
Well, it's the same thing all of them have to. You have to sell your plan, your vision, and hope. She gave hope for the country tonight. It wasn't just criticism, it was hope. And I think that's what she will do, and each state will have to decide, but she is making the case for why she is will be the best president of any of the candidates, and she can beat Joe Biden.
How can she beat him better than the other candidates on stage?
Well, you saw it tonight. She was the person that I know, that I've known for a long time when I served with her. So, you know, when it came to Israel, great. When it came to education, great. When it came to law enforcement, the military, you name it. What was she weak on? She was strong in everything that was discussed tonight. So I think that'll continue, and people see it. You saw the toughness, and you saw the compassion.
But on abortion, she's saying really strongly, realistic.
You saw a lot of capitulation on the abortion issue by the candidates, other than Nikki, in my opinion. And I think, it's a hot issue now. But
the point she's trying to make is true that there is not a consensus in the Senate. Do you think that that's going to...
What she was saying is you couldn't get 60 votes. And the realism is it wasn't there. And so each state is going to have to, the federal government's going to have to step in at some point. And you got to pass something that you will get into law. And what she said was exactly right. 60 senators is what you've got to come to. Now, you can change the Senate. You get more people in the House, more solid conservatives, pro-life. This is about life, folks, and that came through loud and clear.
What's your impression of the foreign policy discussions, or especially about Ukraine and Russia?
Well, I mean, they asked the questions about more funding. She was for more funding for Ukraine because of you don't want to strengthen Russia and China, and she wanted to protect the borders. And I think she made the right, she answered it right. And the others dodged, and, raising the hands, though, it's kind of an elementary way to do it, I thought. The moderators lost control. Again, the people that lost were the American people with the debate. Nikki won this debate, though. But the next debate, you need to have law and order, and you need to have clear answers. And when you're given a minute or a minute and a half, you cut the mics off. And that's what wasn't done tonight. She did. That's where you saw the fire in Nikki, particularly with Israel, and particularly on the funding for Ukraine, because he was going to cut it off. And she just disagrees with that. But that's how she handles when she disagrees with somebody. But she's strong in her convictions. Who showed the fire other than Nikki Haley tonight? You tell me. Anybody on that stage? They gave pat answers. They gave platitudes. She didn't do that. And neither will she as we continue in more debates and as American people see what she's doing.
What were you expecting out of today?
I think everyone that wanted to get a clip that they could spin out and raise money and talk about what a good job they did, I think everyone got something out of the debate. But the question is, did they get anything out of the debate to do much about the fact that they're losing by 40 or 50 points to Donald Trump? I'm not so sure. So I think in another way, I think that unfortunately for me, because I wanted President Trump to debate tonight, but I think it proved that he probably made the right decision. It didn't come. Not that I wanted that, but I think that's what happened.
You ran the RNC, and you ran it during a time that we were more unified as a party. No one's running it now, and there is disunity in the party. What is the outcome other than a Joe Biden presidency?
Well, I mean, you can't win without addition, right? I mean, it doesn't work. So somehow or another, they've got to come together, and the party's got to come together, and division's very profitable nowadays.
That Donald Trump said that he was not going to be able to debate this because she was required to endorse.
Yeah, well, they should sign that, because if they're gonna take the data from the RNC, if you're gonna take the data from the party and use the data, you need to pledge that you're not going to use the data at a later time to hurt your nominee. It makes sense, right? That's it. So anyway.
Let the voters decide.
Well, we rate the voters side, but they got to sign the pledge. I mean, otherwise you shouldn't take the data. You can't take the data.
So it's about the data.
Well, so the pledge came from the data agreement. That's where the pledge came from. It wasn't made up out of thin air. There was a data agreement that said, if you're going to take this data, you're going to agree to support the nominee.
I was honored to be a part of it. It's really just about the fact that I believe Joe Biden has weakened this country at home and abroad. And this is a time for proven leadership. And during my years when I was a leader in the Congress, I led Indiana as governor. I served as vice president. I think, without doubt, I say with humility, but I believe I'm the most qualified and experienced and proven conservative in this field. And it's those conservative values, that conservative agenda, that's going to bring America all the way back. Country around after the disastrous policies of the Biden administration. But I also wanted people to know that it's a very clear choice on that stage. And I seized every opportunity I could do to draw those contrasts, and I look forward to the next debate. As we've traveled around Iowa and New Hampshire, one of the things we figured out is that we're well known, but we're not known well. I mean, people that know me wouldn't have been surprised to see my fire. You know, I fought for conservative values in Congress. I fought
for conservative values as governor of Indiana. And I was the leading champion of conservative values in the Trump-Pence administration. I know how to fight, and I was happy to bring that fight to
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
No, I have a big horse.
Well, you know what? You do have a big horse.
Big horse.
I think I knew that, Ken.
You did know.
You guys remember
That's all
Ken
right. It's a busy day.
Cuccinelli, my dear friend, who's now with DeSantis full time?
Well, the Super PAC.
Super PAC.
I help run Never Back Down, which is the Super PAC supporting the governor.
What? That ad is unbelievable, going viral. But how did he do tonight?
Oh, he did great.
Yeah.
This was superb.
Yeah.
And it was very different from what I expected.
Okay, what were you expecting?
Well, I was expecting him to take a lot of incoming, and I think they were afraid of him. And, he's taken more incoming than any two candidates combined in the race, including paid negative advertising from the Trump campaign. The Biden folks have been hitting him, and they know who the threat is. It's Governor Ron DeSantis, and he's stood up to it every time the incoming is hit. So I think that a lot of people decided it wasn't worth their time. Though I will say the little pissing matches across the stage that he stayed out of made him look even more presidential and look even stronger by staying out of them.
Yeah, Trump decided not to come, but he was all over the place when he had his surrogates here, and I thought that they thought it wasn't significant, and then he was running ads on Fox. But yet your candidate didn't even go after him either, just kind of made his
Didn't need to. Well, I don't know. But he didn't need to. When he got asked the backwards-looking question, he said, "Look, this is about the future." I wrote a note down, "The future," because yes, he kept coming back to it, over and over.
And talking to the people. I didn't
Well, that's right, absolutely.
The people that were watching,
And
not the people.
and as he has said, you saw this recent dust-up over the listless vessels bullcrap. That was a made-up controversy.
Well, so was the one about the curriculum.
Yeah, that was too. And Scott doubled down on that recently. I was really disappointed to see that because I really like him.
Well,
but
you know what happened there? I think that if you wanted to ding DeSantis, then you needed to go against that curriculum. But then over time, people found out that it was African-American historian that wrote the curriculum.
Yeah, well, not only that, I went and read it.
Yeah.
How many of the people tossing trash actually read it? I mean, you and I both know it wasn't many. Yes, and but it's disappointing to see.
Because he sent a letter to Kamala Harris, and she refused.
Isn't that interesting? They're afraid of him. They're afraid of him. And what you saw tonight and what you saw from Kamala Harris there is my prediction going forward, Ron DeSantis will become the nominee and Joe Biden will not debate him because it will be a slaughter. It will be a slaughter. Donald Trump lost the first presidential debate to Joe Biden. And the beautiful thing about a statement like that is people can go back and watch for themselves. If you can stomach it, and you will see Donald Trump lose a debate to Joe Biden. It was terrible. He's not a good debater. He's a showman. He's loud, and can sometimes be entertaining, but that's not what the president is.
If Donald Trump were on the stage, what would one question have been that you would have liked for him and DeSantis to show some type of contrast?
Well, I think the COVID contrast is huge. I think the economic consequences, not just the decision-making and the freedom aspect of it, but the economic consequences of it. He did talk about the consequences for children of getting them back in schools. And, that's just a small part of his education accomplishments. But people got introduced to that. And the beauty of tonight is, and we'll find out how many millions of people watched, but tonight was the introduction to this campaign for most of normal America. You and I aren't normal in this way. We pay way too much attention, but regular folks finally got an unfiltered view of Governor Ron DeSantis, America's governor, the best conservative chief executive in our lifetimes.
One of the questions that I was surprised didn't come up, or I guess answered when they talked about crime, is the role of the criminal justice reform that was pinned into law.
Yeah, I thought that was going to show up too. Yeah.
You're talking 15,000 federal prisoners were released under
Yes, and DeSantis
watch.
has been very critical of that.
Well, and should be perhaps because over 1,000 have been rearrested and now in jail.
Yeah.
And most of them returned to their communities and are now leading the gang activity we see.
Right.
So we can go against the prosecutors and talk about them all day, and the defense and all the rest of the challenges that most of our inner cities are seeing. But I'm surprised that doesn't come up. Is that going to be a part of your campaign?
DeSantis has made it a part of the campaign. And, you know, it comes and goes when the issue rises. But tonight he made the point that he's gotten Florida to the lowest crime rate in 50 years. Part of how he's done that is removing Soros prosecutors. He's the only person in America to do that.
Responded to that as if it weren't true. There was a little grumbling in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think
Not concerned.
Facts, or they just
well, that's what tonight is about. Is for a lot of people, this is an introduction.
Okay.
Ron DeSantis, hear me now, believe me later. Ron DeSantis is the only leader in America to remove a single Soros prosecutor, and he's done it twice. One in Tampa, one in Orlando, and the people of Florida are safer because of it. And, you know, he's running against the guy who hired Christopher Wray and now complains about Christopher Wray. That's what DeSantis has done. He's fired the right people. Talked about firing Fauci, too. Trump also said this summer, oh, gosh, you know, I couldn't do that, talking to Brett Baer. I couldn't fire him, and he gave him an award going out the door. Sorry, not the window. He should have gone out the window.
Yeah, I'm wondering if, we've spoken about COPA, we've spoken about other issues there. If there were room for that type of debate between Trump and DeSantis, who should not be back on the next stage? Who do you think?
Well, of course, the standards will be higher next time, and you know, there's a rule called the margin of error rule. 1% is below the margin of error of the polls. So there are people on that stage who statistically have zero support, and really the RNC
for the 40,000
statistical. What they have 1%. That's just not adequate. That's not real. Well, wait. Let me answer your question. So the next debate that goes up to 3%. Yeah, 50,000 donors, but 3% support. And I mean, look, the number of donors. We saw Doug Burgum pay $20 to 40,000 people to make $1 donations. He gave up $780,000 to pay to buy his way onto the stage. I give him credit, having busted his leg this morning for showing up and standing on one leg. But, you know, that's a standard that is being gamed. And it isn't a real measure, apparently, of support any longer. So
one of the things that we saw, too, Kim, was when Mike Pence got in is when DeSantis numbers went down. People think that they should credit Trump for maintaining at that 50%, when half of that 50% says that they are also open to somebody else.
Well, in New Hampshire and Iowa, more than 50% of voters don't want Trump as the nominee. And they're going to set the pace.
But I think
everything's going to change when we get to that.
The question is not about Trump now. The question is about Mike Pence, because I think that that's where DeSantis was riding higher.
Mike Pence has no path. I'm sorry, I
so
love the man.
So that evangelical vote that's supporting him, you think is going to...
All four people are going...
And DeSantis impress them tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he has a strong record in the issues that matter to Christian voters, and he's also, presented himself in a way that is presidential, and that matters to evangelical voters. You know, a couple of people up there talked about a role model. Wasn't DeSantis, but he's, the story that that a lot of voters don't, about his wife's breast cancer and how he stepped in and took on more family duties. He's got 3 little kids. I mean,
he did speak of being a soldier today. I was glad
he did.
That
Yeah, a couple of times.
A lot of Americans have forgotten about 9/11.
Let me stay with this, and that was a motive for him to become a soldier. And the fact of the matter is, he is a role model. This guy worked his way through college, blue-collar guy working his way through Yale as an electrician's assistant. He went from Harvard Law to the military. No one else in his class doing that. Served this country, served in Iraq as a JAG officer, I want to be clear. But he is the only veteran running for president of either party. And that matters, especially at a time where recruitment is down, morale is down. That kind of leadership would be invaluable for returning the lethality that our military should have.
Okay, so he announced today, he showed himself who I am to the American people. What's next? What's the next?
Well, he's going to hit the road again.
Oh, hit the road.
He's going to hit the road again.
Okay.
And I think that a lot of the reason he did as well as he did tonight is he's been out talking to so many individual voters and learning their stories and putting meat on the bones of the American decline that he talks about. It has a real human face to Ron DeSantis. And I think he conveyed some of that tonight. He talked about Penny in Texas and talked about a woman in Florida. You know, these are things you don't pick up sitting in your office. You pick up out on the trail talking to folks.
It's true. It's true. So. Well, you got a long way to go.
We all got a long way
to go until next summer.
Yes.
So we're going to be watching your campaign very closely.
Right back here.
Right back here.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Thanks for spending time with me. Yeah. Ken Cuccinelli, you guys know him, especially here on Cure America. We've interviewed him many a times. He was in the administration. My goodness, his resume is so long. We'll give you more detail about it. But he's over at the DeSantis, what do you say, the PAC? Wow. This is a big step because people of that quality don't leave all of Washington just to go, work on a campaign that they didn't think had relevance, that they didn't think had meaning, and that they didn't think would win. I really highly regard Ken. So, wow, let's see who else is around here. Oh, you did?
I thought he was great. He was really strong. There's
talking Tim Scott.
Tim Scott, yeah. Of course, there's a lot of back and forth. He didn't, wade into some of the conflict. I think I saw in him what I see in the Senate every day, and that's leadership. I thought that he was the most presidential guy on the stage tonight. He didn't interrupt, yeah. He stayed in his time. I think his closing statement was really strong. Yeah, I thought he crushed it. But I thought in response to a number of the questions, and like you said, he didn't interrupt people. I thought the question on immigration was good for him. I thought the question he got his line in on education. I think when he talks about his biography is always really compelling. And I thought on the life issue, I thought he had the strongest response on that too.
Is there anything you think you should do better next time?
Well, I think that what people are looking for, at least I think what people are looking for, is somebody who exudes leadership and in a calm and confident way, in a hopeful and optimistic way. And I think that comes across with him. I frankly like the fact that he doesn't get in the childish kind of bickering back and forth that happened between the candidates tonight. I think that's the best way to re-elect Joe Biden, honestly. I think getting up there and in a hopeful, positive, optimistic way, articulating a clear vision for the future of this country and a leadership style that I think is winsome to the American people is the way we're going to win this election. And to me, it's about winning the presidency and winning a majority of the United States Senate. And I think Tim Scott at the top of the ticket is the best way to ensure that. Well, I think that you got a good, fulsome discussion. Obviously, we have, in as much as we maybe agree on a lot of the policy issues, a lot of differences in personality, which I thought came through tonight. But again, if you look at how the candidates distinguished themselves, I thought it was really effective just because.
Thank you. You're in a swing state. What's your plan to win Wisconsin?
Say again?
What's your plan to win Wisconsin?
Well, to win Wisconsin, we've got to do well in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Nevada first. So if we get through all of those, which we're planning on doing, then we'll look forward to being in Wisconsin. But I think the first thing I should just say about Wisconsin, the last time I was in this building was for Game 3 of the Bucks versus the Nets. They were down 2-0. And of course they came back, won that game, went on to win a national championship in the NBA, and very exciting. So I'll just say go Bucks. That's one way we're going to win Wisconsin. I'll be wearing my Bucks gear.
We'll take that.
Yeah. I won't be wearing my Green Bay gear. I'm sorry, because that would be too political. But I grew up in eastern North Dakota, surrounded by Vikings fans. I was a Fran Tarkington fan, wore his number 10 when I was a kid. So the bridge too far to go to Green Bay, but we're Bucks all the way.
Go for it. About what you were saying about
I'm sorry.
Elaborate a little bit on the small town. You were talking about being from a small town. Is that one that you were attempting to make?
Well, the point was a pretty simple one, and we've got small towns all over America. A lot of them are in rural areas, north, south, east, west. In those small towns, there's accountability. People know who you are. They know, who your parents are. They know if you're out doing something you aren't supposed to do. Everybody kind of is on top of it. And then if you're in a situation where neighbors help neighbors, And right now, again, the business models of social media, the business models of the cable channels are all thriving on divisiveness. I mean, that's what drives clicks. I mean, even if you're a cable channel, you got to carve it up, put it online, and hope somebody clicks on it. The way you get someone to click is you make it the most controversial, most divisive thing you can. But meanwhile, every single day in communities, large and small, across our country, there's people doing acts of kindness that you never hear about. There's small nonprofits doing amazing work. There's people going out and helping people, and whether it's people that are helping people in recovery, helping the homeless. There are great things that are going on that are not government programs, and we never hear about the best of America ever. But I see it, I know it, it's out there. I know the people that work in those things, and part of our presidency is we've just got to get back to that. We can't live in a world where everybody thinks the 1% thing that's happening is actually happening everywhere, because it's not happening everywhere.
Do you think one of the solutions to our urban crisis is maybe make them smaller, bust up some of these cities to make them more manageable?
Well, no, I just think it all comes back to community, because even in a large city, there's always a neighborhood. There's a block. I mean, how do you rebuild one block at a time? How do you get people to trust each other?
I want you to answer.
Well, I think.
You mentioned about the small town, the values of the small towns. Is that what that?
Well, I think.
It should happen more.
Well, part of definitely. I mean, because even in our largest cities, I mean, you would know there's some neighborhoods that are safer than others. Some neighborhoods are controlled by gangs, some are not. And until we get the economy going, and until we get a solution, if it's more economic for someone and if they have more self-esteem and more economic opportunity joining a gang than getting a job, we're going to continue to have problems like we have today. Thank you.
How would you rate yourself?
I'm not into the rating business, and I'll let the pundits decide that. But we're thrilled to be here. It's great to have an opportunity to introduce ourselves to millions of people that likely have never heard of us before.
Were you able to discuss all your talking points that you're hoping to hit today?
Well, I know everybody from Oklahoma.
You do? You're from Oklahoma?
No, I didn't say I'm from Oklahoma. I just said I know everybody from Oklahoma.
Who do you know from Oklahoma?
Let's see. Who do I know? I know T.W. Shannon for sure.
T.W. Shannon, yeah.
I know. Oh my gosh, so this is so long. Mo Anderson, I know you know them.
Keller Williams.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm friends with Mo Anderson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, I was talking to her husband just recently about the Opportunity Zone initiative that Tim Scott had put into the tax bill, because they own all that property and they're trying to think about different things to do. But I overheard your conversation just now.
Yeah.
I'm on Cure America with Star Parker, as well as I'm syndicated columnist with Creators, and we run blackcommunitynews.com.
Yeah.
But that was interesting what you were just talking about with DeSantis. You think that he did an excellent job, it sounds like, on the stage tonight.
I do.
But tell me a little bit about him, because I think he introduced himself to the American people in places that we didn't even recognize. Like you were just talking about how he left Ivy League college and went in the military.
That's exactly right. Yeah, he doesn't like to brag on himself, but the guy is super accomplished. Grew up very blue collar, middle class. Goes to Yale on a baseball scholarship. Becomes captain of his baseball team. After that, he goes and teaches for a year.
Where did he grow up? In Florida?
In Florida.
Originally from
Yep.
there? Oh,
in Florida.
Y'all
and
out the South don't get out much, huh?
No, I guess not.
I live in California, but go ahead.
And then goes and teaches for a year in a high school, I think, and then goes to Harvard Law School. So instead of coming out and going and making a lot of money after Harvard Law, he joins the Navy and is deployed with the Navy SEALs and does several different tours, comes back, runs for Congress, then becomes governor of Florida. And we've seen the rest is history. I mean, he just believes in school choice and empowering parents and energy independence and all of the above approach, and very great on the environment. And so clearly, to me, the most presidential and the guy that showed the most strength up there.
Yeah, that environmental question came up, and I think that's when a lot of the bickering went back and forth, and so a lot of people's answers got a little lost. But I did want to ask you about, if Donald Trump were on the stage, what would one question have been that you would have liked to see addressed between the two of them?
Well, that's a great question. I think what we'd like to all ask President Trump is, just tone down kind of some of the rhetoric, and let's just talk about policies, and let's talk about moving our country forward. And I think that's what the American people are looking for. The reason I got behind to endorse DeSantis early is because we need to take back the White House, because we believe in lower taxes and smaller government, and we believe in empowering people and a justice system that is colorblind. you're seeing us weaponizing the justice system, and you're seeing the attacks on President Trump, which we think are totally wrong. We need someone that can be there and win for 8 years, and so that's why I got behind DeSantis. And but tonight was a great deal.
You. How come I don't know you? Tell me, who are you and where did you come up from?
So I was a business guy. I never ran for office in Oklahoma. Okay. Started a company with $1,000 in a computer.
Where in Oklahoma?
Tulsa.
Okay.
And graduated from Oklahoma State. My dad was a pastor in Norman, Oklahoma. Went to OSU.
I know people in Norman.
Do you?
Yeah, but it's late. I'm not going to try to name off names, but go ahead. Yeah,
and
sure. You got a great
started a company and grew that over the next 20 years. And today we have over 1,000 employees. And 2018, I was just, really our state wasn't performing. And so I felt called to run and felt led to run. And so I just raised my hand and won governor, and I just won my second term. And so today Oklahoma has the largest savings account in our state history. I've cut taxes. We just passed a school choice to empower parents and opening up more education. I've put more money in public education than any other governor before me. So Oklahoma is just becoming the place to be.
I think that you have a little bit of tension there too. First I want to ask you about what are you guys doing on abortion, but also I wanted to ask you about the tension that I just recently read about something, I guess to do with the natives. And they have a lot of control over property or something like that. I don't follow state law.
Yeah, so you might be thinking about the McGirt decision. So the U.S. Supreme Court in 2020 basically said that we still have reservations in Oklahoma. Okay, so there's a huge jurisdictional problem for the Major Crimes Act because we've disbanded our reservations at statehood, and so the U.S. Supreme Court said that Tulsa, Oklahoma, for example, was still a reservation with 1 million people. So it's caused all kinds of issues, and now the native tribes, the big tribal governments, are trying to push, saying that they don't have to pay taxes like every other citizen.
Right, that's what it was.
And don't have to pay speeding tickets. So now you've got a case, and I'm Cherokee. I've got my Cherokee card.
Yeah.
So now you have a case where a guy like Kevin Stitt doesn't have to pay taxes, but a single mom of a different race does.
Wow.
It's weird.
That's a big.
It's a huge issue. So I'm actually, but they're very powerful. So they give a lot of money to different politicians.
Yeah, they do.
And so they can push some certain narratives. But I'm just about fairness. And I want one set of rules regardless of where you live or what race you are. We got to have one set of rules.
That is interesting because even we're hearing a little bit of that discussion about tribalism coming out of Hawaii right now. It's like there are certain rights that people have even though we're Americans. So I'm gonna have to follow that a little closer.
You need to follow that. Like I'm after like all the different groups, the Hispanic groups, the African American groups, the Asian groups. I'm like, guys, you need to look at this issue because the Native Americans are saying that they have a whole set of rules that they get to play by that nobody else does.
Right.
And that's not fair.
Well, it's not, and we were having discussions similar to that in Southern California because there's Native communities there, of course, but now they want an island off near Catalina just for their gambling. It's just like, wait a minute, something's gone a little wrong here, but it's not my specialty area, so I'm not getting in your dog fight.
Check into it.
But I have to look at that a little bit. But one more point then on your state, and then I'm going to go back to DeSantis, is on abortion. What have you guys been doing on that lately?
Yeah, well, our state's pretty clear. We believe life begins at conception, and so I've signed several different laws to protect life in Oklahoma. At the same time, we want to be the most pro-family state, and I expanded postpartum benefits for moms, and we've did a fatherhood initiative. So we're doing some amazing things.
And this is federalism at its best. Don't you think that what's happened, everyone looks at the negative side of the Biden administration, but I think it's made the states more strong and competitive. So some good stuff going on. One final question on DeSantis. What do you think would be the first thing that he would do to unify the country? We just talked a little bit about these racial divisions that have gone on too long. We've seen what he's done on DEI, commendable. We've seen what he's done on affirmative action, commendable. We've seen what he's done even on curriculum. What will he do as the president of a tremendously divided country?
Well, I think we have to start talking about equal opportunities for everybody. We need to get back to some of the things that Martin Luther King talked about. There's no such thing as equal outcomes. And for us to teach the next generation that somehow you're owed something or there's going to be an equal outcome, there's going to be equal opportunities. We're going to give everybody the same opportunity to go succeed, whether it's through education and hard work and merits. But persistence, hard work is what we need to teach that next generation, and we should be colorblind. we should. That's the way. I don't know why we always talk about race, whether you're Hispanic or Asian or African American or American Indian. We want you all to be successful. We want you all to live in Oklahoma. We want to all play by the same set of rules.
We're not going to all live in Oklahoma, okay?
Well, we want all the business people to come. And,
no, we can't do that.
We
now
can't
you're
do
competing
that.
with DeSantis. I'm going to have to watch you, Governor. My goodness, I met a new friend. I'm going to have to watch what they're doing in the great state of Oklahoma. But right now, we're thinking about the presidential. We're here at the debate with Fox News, and I'll be right back. God birthed in my heart years ago to do this work of CURE, the Center for Urban Renewal and Education.
We are incredibly privileged to have pastors from across the nation here for training and collaboration on solutions to help our communities.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for.
The Declaration meant what it said. All men are created equal.
We're to awaken, train, and mobilize the church as a whole, but the historically black church in particular, to end abortion in our communities.
Every church needs to do everything it can to help be an educational hub.
The crisis of the day is the sexual gone wrong, and it's going extraordinarily wrong. Us Christians are called to correct that by living the sexuality that God has given us.
It was the church who created the idea of educating every boy and girl. The idea of public health care, guess where that came from? The church. It was actually the church who was commissioned to do the work of charity. Guess who's actually robbed you of part of what it is that you're to do? It's government, and they failed miserably at it. They're not called to do it.
Government is not God.
Are we going to bow to government, or are we going to bow to God?
Kids need to see that confidence that we have about the truth. We're not in doubt about who we are.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Cure America, where we are sorting through the noise of the news to find truth. And if our message resonates with you, if you like what you're hearing and seeing, then please, as a personal favor to me, support Cure today. It's tax deductible. Your gift will help us further our message to sort through the noise of the news as well as our other programs at curepolicy.org. Go to curepolicy.org and we will continue. God bless you. And Ecclesiastes 12:13, the conclusion of the matter, the scripture says is fear God, keep his commandments, because this is man's all.